Hello everyone. Well, today we are going to do a little bit more work on getting the boat ready to go test it on the water. And I've got a few parts that have come in. We got a fuel filter. We've got those end link pieces for the throttle that we've got to put on. And we've got a water pump kit. So I'm going to start by not doing any of that. And I'm actually going to take all the covers off, get everything cleaned out of the boat, vacuum it out, pressure wash the engine, and get it all cleaned up. But I won't make you suffer through any of that with me. I'm gonna get that done, and I'll meet you back by the motor when we're ready to start working on getting this water pump and stuff changed. I'll see you guys in a bit. Hello everyone. Well, I got all these hinges, or the compartments, the covers all mounted, and they're just riveted on, nothing fancy. I just don't want them to blow off and have to deal with them moving around and everything. I got all those done. I am missing the one still. I haven't found one for it. I cleaned it out, but then I washed it after I vacuumed it, and now it's got some more dust and stuff in there, but that's really not what this is about. We are going to change the water pump. So let me walk around here and I'll show you what I got. And I ordered this, I don't even remember where I found it. It's Sierra Marine water pump kit. They don't, as near as I can tell, they don't make this one anymore. So hopefully I don't have to change this again anytime in the near future. But it comes with the upper metal housing, and I don't know what the condition of this one is, so I opted to get the whole kit instead of just the water pump impeller. I imagine if I keep the impeller changed, that will probably last quite a while. Then you get a couple of gaskets and some seals. You get the impeller itself. And then you get the bottom plate that goes on the bottom here. And this is what helps make the water, it comes in on one side and goes out on the other side. To get this off, we are going to have to remove, there is I don't know if you can see that right. Let's see if I can get this to focus. The sun is really messing with me. I can't see the camera. There you go. There's a nut in there, and then there's 2 bolts on this side, and then there's the same 2 bolts to match them on this side. I'm gonna go ahead and get all 5 of those out, and then we'll pull this down and see what the water pump looks like. All right, so here's the last bolt that we have to take out to get this thing off here. I'm hoping it's not gonna fall off here when I take this last bolt out. I guess I'm assuming this is the last bolt. This is the last one I see. So far, it's just the 5 that I showed you earlier. All right, so now that we've got all the bolts out, we should be able to just grab this kind of down here on the bottom. And it should come straight out like that. All right, so we lost a couple of pieces when we first took that apart. All right, all that looks okay. So we're not gonna mess with the shifter. This piece here is for if you look right here, you can see that is your shift shaft that comes down from the top. So this piece here, if you can zoom in here, this piece here is actually the shifter that goes down here and shifts the gear case in the bottom. So this little spacer was on there, so you just need to make sure it stays on there. And then your water pump is in here. So we'll go ahead and stand this up so we can work on it. Maybe. And I'm gonna go get the tools for that. I'll be right back. All right, so these are a 10mm and there's just the 4 of them. And if this is in good shape, I haven't decided yet. I'll probably put the new one on since I have the new one, but I'm definitely gonna save the old one if it's still in good shape. Because like I said, near as I can tell, this kit is no longer available. So, and just get all of these out. I think I'm gonna, before I put this back together, I'm gonna get the degreaser out and the pressure washer back out and get this all nice and clean because it is pretty nasty in here. And I'm also, before I take this to the lake, I'm definitely going to go ahead and change the gear oil in it. All right, so then we take that off. And that's not promising because it doesn't look like our impeller's in too bad a shape. And this was not pumping water. This is pretty ground up in here. I was really hoping this was going to be absolutely terrible. And then when you pull that off, there's this little lock key here, and that's what actually locks into the groove in the impeller there, and that's what makes it turn. So don't accidentally lose that. This one's not hard. It's a little worn. So we're going to change it because we're there. And it's a good idea to put a new one in. A lot of people change them every year. And we also got a new plate for this. There's gear oil up here. I think we got new gaskets for that piece. We did, our gaskets are, the bottom one looks a little different, but it doesn't look like it probably matters based on the way that's all lining up there. So we'll use what we got. I'm gonna get this all cleaned up and then I'll show you guys how I put it back together. Okay, so the first thing you do is install the gasket that goes on the bottom. And you can tell that because it has this bleed hole here that lines up with the front there. Then the next step is your stainless steel plate. And it goes on in the same orientation as that gasket. And then what I like to do, you can put this impeller in the, put the gasket on next actually, but you can put this impeller in the housing, but I find it's easier when I've done this to install the impeller on here first. Find the flat spot on the shaft. Let me turn this around so you guys can see. Find the flat spot, install your drive key, and then just push the impeller right down onto the drive key. Make sure you keep your gasket in pretty close to the right place. And so now this engine turns clockwise. So the engine turns that way, which means that when we put this housing on, to get those the fingers on this impeller folded over, we want to turn this counterclockwise. So we're gonna just push down and turn it at the same time. And that's just lining all those fingers on that impeller up so that they're set. Because if you remember when we took the old one off, they're kind of curved. And so you want them to be curved so that as it turns clockwise, they're brushing against the housing like that and not trying to dig into the housing like that. So then once you get this pressed all the way down or real close to it, then you have to put your bolts in. Just make sure they go through both gaskets and the plate. I'm not sure if there's some type of pre-lube you can put on that impeller, but the guy that showed me how to do this never put anything on it, so I don't put anything on it either. I imagine that somebody can comment below if there's something good to put on that to pre-lube it when you first start it up, and then also make it a little easier to get in there. But I don't. Like I said, the guy that showed me how to do this didn't tell me to put anything on there, so I don't, and I never have. So just make sure you have water going to it before you turn the engine over the first time, so that it doesn't run dry at all. And then it's always a good idea, if you're turning the motor over more than just maybe a quarter of a turn to line something up or something, to make sure you have water on the motor so it can lube that water pump. And then it's time to put the lower unit back on the motor. And if you look in here, you can see this motor, this piece here fits into this coupler right here, and that coupler stays in there. It's actually got a plastic outside and a rubber inside. So then you just slide the shaft in the hole. Line up your bolt. Because we turned that input shaft, we might have to turn the motor just a little bit to get this all to line up. And then now we're engaged on our pins, and we can hold it all the way up. So we're just gonna hold it there and start one of our bolts and just tighten it down finger tight. If you have trouble getting this in there, you might have to just kind of wiggle it or jiggle it a little bit. But what you don't want to do is you don't want to use the bolts to pull it up, because you don't want to force it. If something's not lined up, you'll bend something or you can do damage in there. So I'm going to install the rest of these bolts, and then we're going to let this motor down and change the oil in the gearbox. Then it'll be time to fire it up and see if it runs and pumps water. See you guys in a bit. Okay, so we got the water pump all changed, and we are ready to give this thing a start and see if it'll run and not overheat. No water. Oh, looks like it's starting to drip. Got water out of the exhaust. See, water's coming out of the prop there. There we go. We have water out of the telltale. Alright guys, so yeah, there. One step closer to being ready to go to the lake and see if this boat's gonna float. Next thing we gotta do is, I think we're gonna go ahead and call the motor ready to go until we water test it, and might have to do a tune-up, I don't know. But for right now, I mean, once this thing's warmed up, as you can see, now that it's warmed up, it starts and runs pretty good. So we're gonna call the motor ready to go, and now we just gotta get the trailer ready, and first thing we gotta do is figure out the tire situation. So if you look at that, you can see we have a problem with the tires. We also have a problem with the lug nuts. They're buried inside the wheel. You can see I tried to tap this one off and I can't get them off. So they're not nuts, they're studs, they're bolts, and I can't get them out of that wheel. So that's gonna be the next thing we have to accomplish, and then I guess it's time to put this thing on the water and see if it'll float. I'll see you guys in a bit.